She asked me the question like it was a casual curiosity, like the kind you ask about the weather or whether dinner was ready. "Why don't you touch me anymore?" Her voice was soft, teasing even, with the familiar lilt I used to crave. But something in her eyes betrayed the innocence of the question. There was a flicker of expectation, a dare hidden in the curve of her lips. I looked at her across the dimly lit bedroom, the shadows from the bedside lamp painting her face with warmth I used to feel for her, and I smiled. But it wasn't the smile she expected. Not the warm, forgiving smile that used to dissolve our arguments. No, it was a quiet, cold smile. "Because," I said slowly, each word tasting like ash in my mouth, "you gave yourself away." The air froze between us. Her smile faltered. Her eyes widened, searching mine, trying to find the joke. But there was none. We had been married for 8 years. 8 years of what I thought was love, partnership, shared dreams. Our life was a delicate rhythm. Our mornings together, the familiar sighs of exhaustion after long days, the quiet intimacy of ordinary evenings. I had believed in us. I had believed in her. And apparently I had been a fool. Started subtly. A text left behind, quickly deleted, that she thought I hadn't seen. A fragrance that wasn't mine lingering on her scarf. A late night at the office that became a pattern. I had ignored the whispers of doubt, telling myself that trust was sacred, that suspicion was poison. But deep down I knew. And when I knew, everything changed. I had discovered it the way men often discover the most brutal truths. Not in a confrontation, but in quiet observation. Her phone buzzed on the kitchen counter while she showered, and I had picked it up, trembling but resolute. I hadn't meant to invade her privacy, but the answers had been screaming at me for months. There he was. Every text, every message dripping with familiarity that I thought was mine alone. Every photo, every miss you. Every laugh shared over words I would never speak. And the sickening part was the truth in the smallest detail. The way she had smiled at the screen, the warmth in her tone that I hadn't heard in years. That smile had belonged to someone else. So now she was here in our bedroom, asking the question that had been haunting me for weeks. And I could see it in her eyes. The confidence of someone who believed she could still seduce, still charm, still lie her way into my forgiveness. I walked toward her slowly, the floorboards creaking under my weight. I wanted her to feel the gravity of what I had discovered, to understand that this was no petty jealousy, no fleeting anger. This was betrayal, the kind that leaves scars invisible to the world but raw and bleeding inside. "Why?" she whispered, almost pleading. "Because," I repeated, letting the words linger like smoke between us. "You gave yourself away." Her eyes searched mine, desperate now. What are you talking about?" I shook my head, feeling the tension coil tighter around my chest. "You know exactly what I mean." She laughed, nervously at first, then more bitterly. "You're imagining things. You always overthink." But I wasn't imagining. I had the evidence. Every late night, every secret smile, every whisper on her phone. I had watched the subtle changes. The way she touched me less, the way she avoided my gaze, the way our home felt more like a shared space with a stranger than a sanctuary of love. "You've been with him," I said finally, the words heavy, deliberate. Her laugh died in her throat. She opened her mouth, closed it, tried to find the right lie. But she couldn't. Not anymore. She had been careless, thinking I wouldn't notice. But there were signs I couldn't ignore. The lipstick I didn't buy, the perfume I hadn't chosen, the quiet phone calls in the bathroom. She had thought she could hide it in the shadows of our life. But the light of truth always finds its way. And now she was here, asking why I didn't touch her, why I had become distant, why I no longer whispered the things she loved to hear. And all I could do was smile through the heartbreak, through the betrayal that cut me deeper than any physical wound ever could. "I can't," I said. "Not anymore. Not after knowing that your heart, your body, your attention, belongs somewhere else. Not to me." She recoiled as if struck. "It's not what you think." Stop." My voice was firmer than I had expected, even to myself. "Don't lie to me. Don't twist it. I saw the messages. I saw the photos. I heard the laughter that wasn't mine. Tears welled in her eyes. And for a moment I wanted to reach out, to pull her close, to fix the unfixable. But I couldn't. Because love, real love, is not just about holding someone. It's about knowing their truth and still choosing to stay. And she had taken that choice away from me. I thought we were happy, she whispered, voice breaking. And I thought so too, I said softly. Until I realized happiness isn't built on lies. The room was silent except for the faint hum of the air conditioner, the distant sound of traffic outside. The tension was suffocating, a physical presence pressing against my chest. I wanted to scream, to cry, to rage, but the fury inside me had settled into a cold, aching emptiness. I remembered the small moments that had shifted without me noticing, the way she would glance at her phone with that secretive smile, the subtle scent that lingered on her skin after she returned from errands, the distant tone in her voice when she thought I wasn't listening. And it all added up to this unbearable truth that she was no longer mine. I trusted you, I whispered. Her shoulders slumped. I didn't mean. I don't want your excuses, I said, shaking my head. I want the truth. And I have it. That's why I don't touch you anymore. That's why I don't kiss you, why I don't reach for you in the dark. 'Cause it would be a lie. It would be pretending that nothing happened. She sank onto the bed, burying her face in her hands. I made a mistake, she said, the words trembling, fragile. I looked at her, and for a moment I saw the woman I loved, the one I had laughed with, dreamed with, fought with, built a life with. And then I saw the shadow of betrayal, the crack in the foundation of everything we had. Mistake? I asked, my voice low, steady. Do you understand what that means? To me. To us. A mistake doesn't ruin 8 years. A mistake doesn't make someone look at your texts and feel the cold punch of betrayal in their chest. She didn't answer. She couldn't. I turned away, walking toward the window, feeling the city lights flicker against the glass. I could hear her quiet sobs behind me, the sound both comforting and unbearable. I loved her, in a way that was hopeless and stubborn. But love alone cannot repair shattered trust. Not when the wound is inflicted by the one you believed would protect you above all else. I thought of all the nights I had held her close, all the mornings we had shared in silence, the laughter, the small gestures of affection that had defined our life. And now, each memory felt tainted, each moment a reminder of what I had lost. Not just her, but the certainty, the safety, the bond one had taken for granted. I can't forgive this, I said quietly, though I knew she could hear me perfectly. She lifted her head, eyes red, wet, desperate. Please, can we work through this? I shook my head slowly. No, we can't. Not now. Maybe not ever. Because forgiveness doesn't erase the fact that you chose someone else while I was still here, loving you completely. Her face crumpled, the fight draining out of her. And for the first time in years I felt a strange relief, an end to the quiet, gnawing tension that had hollowed my nights. The truth was out. Pain was raw. But I no longer carried the secret burden of suspicion. I moved to the door, my hand on the knob, and paused. She looked at me, eyes wide, pleading. And for a moment I wanted to turn, to embrace her, to tell her that maybe love could survive this. But I knew better. The bridge had been burned. The trust destroyed. And no amount of tears or whispered apologies could rebuild what had been lost. I loved you, I said finally. More than I should have. And maybe that was my mistake. Her lips quivered, a silent confession of guilt and regret. But I didn't wait for her answer. I opened the door, the hallway light spilling into the darkened bedroom. And I walked out. Not with anger, not with vengeance, but with the quiet, aching certainty that some betrayals are final. Behind me, she sat on the bed, alone, surrounded by the remnants of the life we had shared. And I knew, with a clarity that cut sharper than any knife, that nothing would ever feel the same again. Outside, the night was cold, indifferent. The city hummed with life, oblivious to the heartbreak in the apartment I had left behind. And for the first time in months, I breathed freely. Not because the pain was gone, but because the weight of betrayal had finally been named, confronted, and acknowledged. I had loved her and she had loved someone else. That was the truth. And sometimes the hardest thing in the world is not holding on but letting go. The silence of the empty apartment followed me as I walked into the night. I didn't know what tomorrow would bring. Maybe she would beg, maybe she would try to explain, maybe she would hope I'd return. But I knew that the man who once touched her with trust, who once laughed freely with her, was gone. And the man who stood in the street, looking at the distant glow of the city, was someone new. Someone broken, yes, but free. Free from illusions, free from lies. Free from a love that had been betrayed. I walked away, carrying the memory of her smile, the evidence of her betrayal, and the quiet, haunting ache of a love I had given completely and lost.